to withdraw from the Ejapa deal as a transaction advisor. Some of the reasons Data Bank canvassed for its withdrawal was that some political actors sought to make capital out of their involvement as transaction advisor because of your status as a co-founder of Data Bank. Honorable nominee, with hindsight, would you say the participation or the involvement of Data Bank as a transaction advisor amounted to conflict of interest?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I think that's an area that, I've already alluded to, that the House should be clear on passing the Act. But the question that really that we should debate, I know that in my capacity as a public service official, without being a director but co-owner of that company, I was not part of any decision making with regards to that. But I think we should be having, truly a broader discussion about Ghanaian enterprise, and therefore how independent and experienced entrepreneurs can join government at any point in time. So, Mr. Chairman, here is a company that is 30 years old. Here's a company that started with borrowing $25,000. Here's a company that started I guess, tantamount to a place you would not think an investment bank would start. But that's the resources a Ghanaian entrepreneur had to start that. After 30 years with 500,000 accounts of Ghanaians, 1 billion cedis under management, offices around the country, having participated in every Eurobond transaction since we started in 2007, are we truly saying that in the event of anybody becoming an Attorney General, you can use your law offices? In the event of being a finance minister? I think those are fundamental questions. And therefore, if the rules are clear on what you are talking about, I don't think we should encourage such cynicism because it just goes to poison the environment and we may lose good. I don't think there was any conflict of interest straight away because I was not part of the decision. I think the first-class nature of the institution speaks to itself. I think the Ghanaian entrepreneurial ingenuity that has brought it this far must be praised, and we should be encouraging our companies to grow so that we can begin to do the Eurobonds ourselves. Thank you.
Last question. Honorable nominee, our country at the moment is faced with threat of terrorism along our northern frontiers. This informed the decision of our national security outfit to publish a framework for the prevention and countering violent extremism and terrorism in Ghana. In addition to this, the Select Committee for Defense and Interior was briefed sometime late last year on the, if you like, work on a draft national security strategy. One of the highlights of the strategy and the framework for the prevention and countering violent extremism and terrorism in Ghana is the lack of funding for the security agencies of our state. Now, in the national security strategy itself, the Ministry of Finance is required to establish a peace and security fund to help equip our security agencies so that they can position themselves in a manner that would make it possible for them to protect us. I omitted to add that the Gulf of Guinea has been adjudged as the most dangerous sea in the world. And yet, that is where our oil resources are located. Honorable Minister, if you're given the nomination, what strategies do you have to raise funding to equip our country's security agencies in the face of the threats that we are currently faced with? Thank you.
Thank you very much, and that's truly an excellent question. Thank you. The issues we face, that is a gap between our savings, and as you know, we are running a budget deficit, which therefore goes to suggest that there has to be some accommodations and repurposing, etc., to be able to do that. But I think over the period that we talk about, both the Ministry of Defense, Interior, Fire, etc., have gotten more resources than they have. We are funding forward operating base to be able to tackle the issue of protecting our oil reserves. But within the sort of the Accra Initiative and the Ghana Boundary Commission and various things we are doing is certainly to look at national security, because to be able to maintain our status as a pillar of stability and democratic governance, there has to be security. We also are at a point where I think the ECOWAS protocols enables our neighbors to literally say it here ad nauseum, without the 90 days. And given our attractiveness, I think we're going to have more of an influence. So there's a discussion that we are having to see how we can raise the appropriate resources for that. But I think that really, in a sense, should lead to some amount of empathy when you begin to ask about some places being capped or uncapped, and measure it against, the potential cost of this that we have to do as a nation. And so we need to broaden the dialogue so that we are all on one page on certain issues, and we can argue on the margins. And I think in countries like Norway, 80% of the issues are shared between government and non-government in terms of opposition. And then we talk about the other things. But this is a classic example of choices and repurposing that we have to do. But as you are seeing, I think we have put more resources in the security agencies than other governments in a long while. The FOB is being built, and certainly the National Security Fund will be established and resourced in the coming year.
Yes. So you may now ask your question.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. It seems our colleagues today have left the questions only to us. Honorable nominee, in your response to questions on taxation, you seem to have suggested that there is a need for us to share the burden brought on the economy as a result of COVID. However, a careful analysis of various allocations to government machinery does not share in your suggestion. For example, I tried to look at the trends from 2016. Under your watch, the allocation to government machinery alone has increased by 937.73% over the 5 years. And this has been published in yesterday's edition of the BNFT. And quite apart from that, when you look at the allocations between 2020 and 2021, it also increased by 504.85%. This clearly does not show a mark of a government that is willing to share burden, or that is willing to cut down his own expenditure as a way of commiserating with the citizens who are being taxed. What would you say to that?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. The linking of taxes to OGM, I'm not sure where that is, unless you are suggesting that the OGM is profligate and uses money in a way that does not support.
Not quite exactly. I'm only asking that with reference to what you said earlier, that the reasons for the introduction of the taxes is because we want to share the burden. But I'm saying that was as a policy, you are willing for people to cut down their expenditure and pay more in taxes, government by itself or the OGM is not willing to reduce its own expenditure. And that is what I want you to respond to, Mr. Nominee.
Yeah, I think maybe a deeper analysis may require us to understand the responsibilities or new responsibilities that OGM has taken. Clearly, you can see the adjustments in the number of ministries that government is making, etc. So I think that would require some insight as opposed to isolated numbers as to exactly the increment in mandate and what it is that is happening. So yeah, I wouldn't, ascribe this to a disproportionate burden sharing as a policy, but truly, I think the burden sharing is something that we should all embrace and make sure that the transformation of our country goes on. But I would certainly examine that. Thank you.
As a quick follow-up to that, you will recall that sometime in 2020, there were several other ministries that were run at the presidency. For example, we have the Intercity and Zone Development Ministries, we have the Business Development Ministry, we have the Monitoring and Evaluation. And all those ministries, as we speak now, are no more under the ODM. And yet your allocation is increasing.
Thank you very, very much for that. I think we should check our appendices for some of those. Yes, some of those are out, and certain other obligations, are being taken on. I mean, I think we have learned quite a bit between 2017 and 2020 with regards to effectiveness of execution, and therefore there are some areas of government work that will still need to be deployed to make sure that the President's vision is realized.
Honorable nominee, my second question was still. Oh no, it was a follow-up. It was just a follow-up. It was just a follow-up.
You want to ask?
It's still on. It's still on the.
So leave us to ask.
Honorable nominee, it's still on the taxation. Now, as a response to the imposition of these various taxes, it's been reported that Mr. John Ewa, who is the Chief Executive Officer for the Ghana Association of Bankers, has said that elsewhere, when such taxes are imposed, there is always time given. I mean, some space, some breathing space given to businesses before we actually start implementing the collection of those taxes. What would be your response to that, given the fact that the same reasons why we are introducing these taxes also applies to those businesses? Their cost of operation has gone high. They are all victims of the COVID situation. So they are isolated from the effects of COVID. So how would you respond to that, and how do you take their concerns into consideration in dealing with the tax issue with businesses?
Thank you very much. I think Mr. Ewa must know that usually when Parliament gives us a go-ahead for these, it doesn't take immediate action. So I'm not sure he's saying something new. And you also realize that we had a tax deductibility element for tourism and hotels, etc. So truly, I'm not sure, any citizen really has a lot more empathy than we have when we sit down and draw up the way forward for the nation, and therefore are very aware of the difficulties in industry, individuals, etc., before we put this together.
Honorable nominee, the last but one question has to do with the banking sector. The banking sector cleansing. Many watchers have described the banking sector cleansing as not wholly fair and not wholly in utmost good faith. And citing one particular example with respect to Unibank.
What about it?
Honorable member, you know that the issues first they are pending court, it's pending before arbitration, and Parliament has had a committee to investigate that. Can we leave those matters for those committees so we don't make prejudicial comments, right? So can we ask another question?
Very well considered. Well, I mean, the aspect that I was going to ask, I'm not sure would have prejudiced the outcome of that, but I concede, Honorable Chairman. Honorable nominee, in presenting the 2020 budget statement, and this statement was presented before Parliament.
Mr. Chairman, could I take a bathroom break for 2 minutes?
Honourable members, the meeting is called back to order. Kindly resume your seats and let's continue. Honourable members,
We are resuming.
I should physically move. Mama Pat. Very well. Where's the Honourable Susu?
He's done, I think.
Is it done?
Where are you ready?
Yes. Where's he? Very well. I'll admit another person so that when he comes, I'll allow him a few more minutes. Yes.
Why? Chairman, on your right, our members from government, no questions from Minister for Finance. I'm just asking out of curiosity and interest.
Very well.
Because Chairman will normally look to his
Yes,
right
you may.
and to his left.
Well, wait, it's...
So is here,
There's
Chairman.
no question on right. I shouldn't... Any question on my right?
Ada Musro.
Very well.
Ada Musro.
Yes. Yes.
Chairman, I believe you indicated that you would give priority to ranking members who had to go and chair their committees.
Yes.
And chairman, well, I'm not aware if there are any chairman of committees on our side, but you did indicate you'd give priority to the ranking members.
Yes, I
and
did.
we're accommodating that. So I don't see anything out
Very well.
of the way in this.
Now let's continue. Yes, so to conclude your questioning.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Honourable nominee, before the break, I was making reference to the budget statement you presented before this House on 13th November 2020, in which you promised categorically that 600-bed, 600-bed Kayaye hostel was to start in December. I took time to look at this year's budget and realized that it wasn't captured in this year's budget. My question is, are you really committed to this project? And if you are, what is the current status of that project? Because the Kayaye are still looking forward to this very important social intervention.
Well, what is that?
Yeah, the Honourable Minister, we're waiting for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Mr. Chairman, let me check and get back to you with this as to how we have we intend to do that or realign that. So we will do that, and if it needs to be resolved, I think the media review might be a way in which we would accommodate that. I mean, I think the issue of the welfare status of KIA is important to us. But, you know, the challenge really, as I see it, with regards to our investment in the north, such as irrigation and agriculture, etc., is truly to reverse this trend. I don't think it's sustainable for us to be encouraging that. There are just too many human rights abuses. And the challenge that we have, I remember the president saying, you know, you almost have an imaginary line between Brown and Hafo coming through Volta, and we can't continue to create a country with these two divisions. So the question is, how do you turn the north not into the backwater of Ghana, but actually a destination? And this is where the irrigation issues that we are contemplating, the financing that we got from AFDB for larger farms are doing, the issue of international airport, so that suddenly you have a certain reversal. And I think that really strategically is what we should be looking at. And that is on the agenda for our Obatampa project in terms of investment that we are looking to the north. But I'll certainly look at this issue, and if we have neglected to do it, then to consider it in our half-year review.
Honourable Minister, that is very, very key, given the fact that what you just described would pass for either a medium-term or a long-term means of addressing the problem. As we speak today, there are KIA in and around Medina Market, there are KIA at Abogloshi Market. They are giving birth to kids who are living in the same condition. So the inequality and the plight of this vulnerable group is so key. And it is said that if you want to measure a country's growth, you should also look at how they treat their most vulnerable populace. And I think these people need some closer attention when you eventually get a nod.
No, thank you very much. I think, you know, Mr. Chairman, when you look at the MPP as a right to center government, you know, the key issues are human capital. You know, in as much as you talk about it, it's the people that do that. And we as a government has invested in human capital, I believe, more than any other government. When you look at the free SHS, you look at planting for food, you look at LEAP, you look at school feeding, I mean, clearly that suggests a government with keen empathy to build its future. So we are no less, you know, concerned about that. And sometimes I feel that people are preaching to us while the statistics really indicate that our concern, budget allocation to these areas have been greater than most people.
Yes. John, you wanted to ask a question relating to?
I wanted to provide some information on the KIA project to assist the nominee.
Well, if you couch it in such a way as that to a question, then fine. Otherwise, that's information you share it before here.
Okay, so, but once the question has been answered, it was under the Ministry of Business Development, and an award for the construction of the project was done. The problem was...
Asking whether he's aware.
Yeah, okay, so Honorable Minister, were you aware that the 600-bed capacity of the KIA project was awarded to a contractor under the then Ministry of Business Development? But the problem, the challenge was to do with the land. The the site for the land was around Kolebu traffic light. Let me finish. So I'm laying the foundation. The contention between AMA and Kolebu Teaching Hospital had to do with ownership of the land. So because...
First, are you aware that the project for the construction of the hostel being awarded, are you aware?
The Kayai hostel.
Mr. Chairman, I have not read the handover notes for that, but it seems encouraging because it's leading to identification of a contractor, the usual bickering as to who owns land, and therefore maybe there might be an easier solution than we think. So what is the status of...
Will you intervene between Kolebu and AMA to ensure that an acceptable location of land or site is identified so that the project can be carried out?
I think I'll follow up. I mean, certainly this is Ministry of Works and Housing as an arbiter, and therefore we would encourage that to be done, given our own level of empathy with these issues. Thank you.
Yes. How are you doing? Yes, no worry.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, my three questions will focus on three areas. The first will focus on the PDS transaction, which has to do with the energy sector and the MCC, Millennium Challenge Corporation, and the effort to find private sector partners to intervene in the management of the retailing of electricity by ECG. The story is well known, and so this question doesn't give me the opportunity to repeat all the material facts which I believe all of us are aware of. But your own involvement as the finance minister towards the tail end of the transaction in trying to get the shares of the Ghanaian participants in the consortium to a special purpose vehicle. The resistance thereafter, and so many other things, the discovery that the guarantee which formed the basis of the transfer of the retailing infrastructure of ECG to the consortium, the concessionaires. The discovery that it was fake, and subsequently the decision of government to suspend the entire transaction, and ultimately an announcement by the American government that the matter be independently investigated. We're still not aware of the conclusion of that investigation. But my real question is, in the process, Mr. Nominee, we lost an opportunity. We lost an opportunity to bring in over $500 million of private sector capital, $580 million of private sector capital to support ECG to be more efficient. And so I think that we've had to begin to fund that aspect of ECG's job. That has led to a ballooning of our debt, and I believe some of the taxes that we're having to introduce has some bearing on the failure of that transaction. The question really is, you were finance minister, and your handling of a transaction led us to lose an opportunity to be able to gain that kind of investment. You want to continue as finance minister. Why should we be very confident?
Thank you very much indeed. I think that's an excellent question. I think really we should premise this whole situation with an asset base and a security issue that is worth maybe $4 billion or dollars or so in terms of the value of what we were transferring. Now it is foolhardy when you realize that the conditions precedent, the conditions subsequent, and therefore the ability for the concessionaire has a fake transaction in the middle, with the Americans also thinking that we can go through. First of all, let us understand that the transaction had begun before we came into government. The president looked at it. It's really a utility entity, 25-year concession, etc., where literally after you set good rates, profitability is assured. The president did not see any magic wand in which a foreign entity should have 80% of the value and a Ghanaian should have 20. So immediately he moved that to 51 for Ghanaians and 49 and for foreigners. There was a clear feeling that the Americans will not support that. He was insistent to do that. So that was right. Then we went on. Yes, I did write a letter in which we were insisting that there should be a special purpose vehicle to hold the Ghanaian shares, because if they held those shares individually, it would have been easy for the foreign company to align with one shareholder, and then the whole basis of maintaining this thing as Ghanaian-led would not happen. There were, I think, 3 companies left, BSC, Meralco, and EDF from France. BSC was disqualified on the basis of non-disclosure. It was a Chinese firm, American money. EDF, I think, was not happy with the Ghanaian dominance of that. And then Meralco turning into BTS had their Ghanaian shareholders. So I'm not sure whether characterizing it as a lost opportunity when you know that you are at the precipice and there's something wrong and you fail to have the courage to be able to pull back to fight another day. I think you can maybe even link it to the issue of the banking crisis where the asset quality reviews were done. It was clear that the banks were going to collapse, and there was a lack of resolve in being able to do that. So a certain boldness, and I think government should be praised to know that even at whatever level or whatever time an incident occurs, that will be prejudicial to the protection of our assets, we pull back. And we haven't done anything in 2020 because 2020 really is not the year to resolve such issues. So the issue is postponement, Mr. Chairman, and not a lost opportunity. And I dare say that with the Ofori-Atta program and the whole reorientation of invitation of outsiders to come into the private sector space, we stand to do a better transaction in future.
Chairman, it looks like the nominee doesn't trust us enough to take our water. Is it, yeah, you know, just to, I've been taking my water because, so just to, if he can get some more water or he brings his own. I've been taking my water.
Oh, please.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chair, well, we take water once in a while just to be, you know, just to be sure that he's safe to take our water.
Very well. And Honorable, please continue.
Yes, he's safe to take our water.
Mr. Minister nominee, the question really is, you had absolute control over the management of the transaction, i.e. Government of Ghana and MCC Corporation, which was passed pursuant an act of Parliament of Ghana, a subsidiary. You took over the project. You decided to realign the shareholding. Changing it from 49.51 is definitely praiseworthy. So you were praised for doing that. But you haven't been able to implement the transaction. That's the point. Why would we praise you? Because a transaction that you were absolutely in control of ran into a crisis, threatened to lose as a strategic asset, and you pull the plug, and then you want us to praise you. How is that?
Mr. Chairman, I'm a little confused. I'm a little confused because I think your deep knowledge of this transaction asserted that there was something fake about the guarantee that was coming. So as you look at such a strategic asset, security implications, it's, you know, you put runners on the field and one jump starts and run and you say that you, the referee, have failed. I don't know that. I think it should be quite clear, as you said, that yes, we changed from 80 to 51, and that was a good thing for us. We looked at the non-compliance of the conditions subsequent, and it wasn't clear that it was going to happen. And we had the courage to pull. I think that is good. Do we have time to redo it? Yes. Is the 580 million or more lost? We don't know that for a fact. I think we are in a better situation to reassess and come back to market. So that would be my characterization of a government that really protects its assets.
Now I have one on PDS. Chairman, if you tolerated me, Minister, PDS, just as the Honorable Ayarga have observed, we lost a golden opportunity to allow for private participation in the operations of ECG and to allow for new impetus that allowed for more efficiency in the delivery of their services, apart from the $190 million that are lost. My follow-up is you have an idea what the state of the PDS account is and how much is in the account and whether there's been any reconciliation of the account with PDS. Then related to it, Chairman, is did you ever officially write to PDS and give them an opportunity to correct any of the matters that were brought to your attention relating to fraud in terms of their bank guarantee. Thank you, Chair.
Mr. Chairman, you know the issues of PDS to a certain degree are in court. And I'm sure we will resolve those, at the appropriate time. But I think we did the right thing. I'm not sure that any Ghanaian should be having much empathy for them not being able to meet their conditions subsequent. And that is a good thing that we have it back in our fold to be able to come back another day in the way of the learnings that we have had and going forward.
Yeah. Mr. Nominee, similarly, in the famously Ajapa deal, the gold royalties monetization transaction, the gold royalties monetization transaction, similarly, I say similarly because that is also a concept and a policy which you inherited from the previous regime and tried to actualize, and it fell through. It fell through because the president decided not to pursue the transaction again. When it has been discussed, it tends to revolve around an opinion written by Martin Amidu, and you've variously tried to say, look, Martin's opinion was written without regard to the right of your team to a fair hearing on the issues that he tried to raise. Granted that. But ultimately, the president decided not to pursue the transaction. Is at that time, President decided not to pursue the transaction at that time, even though he's announced again that we should revisit the transaction. Now, with that failure again to implement an instrument that from the analysis was going to likely raise about $1 billion for us, front-loaded for investment and then later on to be recovered through our shares in the various mining companies. With that failure again, why should you continue as finance minister?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, I think I take a great reservation with the issue of failure when the honorable member knows the facts of why there's a change in direction. I don't think we should encourage that. Besides, with regards to Ajapa, I think we have made it clear that the issue of the use of our resources have been less than optimal. Mr. Chairman, we know that foreign people are giving concessions. They are able to put red herring together and raise money on international markets and not necessarily even bring those resources to Ghana. Why should Ghana not do that? It's a fundamental question. Now the question then is, if we agree that we are moving into this equity space, what is the process that we take? The president is saying that we should go to the AG and resubmit that. And so we as a nation should really discuss, this type of leveraging transactions which are to our benefit and supports a diversification from debt. So it's not a failure. I think you also alluded rather softly to, well, you did not have a fair trial. I think that's fundamental to human rights. And there's no way this House should even tolerate accepting and then quoting from that when the rights of Ghanaians have not been put in there. And you put a document of that there to create hatred and create a sense of insecurity for all of us. And that is wrong. I think we should mind our words, because words do matter, and it can lead to an erosion of aspiration for our people, and feel that certain things that we should begin to contemplate to be able to. Look, imagine that we have this royalties company, which maybe in 20, 30 years becomes a $30 billion company. We have 49% or 51 or 52%, whatever, north of 50% of it. Imagine putting that balance sheet to the Bank of Ghana. What then happens? You immediately, literally have a reserve currency, which changes your economies. This whole issue of currency depreciation, etc. And we have these assets sitting because the language that we have as a nation does not embolden anyone to be able to examine these things. I think that's important. We cannot go on this way, and we need to find a way. Yes, if I did not consult chiefs or etc., let's do that. If Parliament really went through the MIF Act in a good way, for them, if we read the Hansard, it was a very spirited debate in which we got the act. Now, if we are talking about agreements that supposedly were too fast, well, that's a different issue. Okay? If you talk about Jersey and why are you in Jersey, there are reasons for that. Talo, Vodafone, etc. are there. So those can be cured. But let's not kill the possibility of us as a nation rising beyond others. So I really beg to differ on the characterization of failure on major transactions that will send our country forward.
My last question, Mr. Chairman. My last question. You have been extolling your performance starting from Kantamanto and working with partners to build financial institution that today is managing close to $1 billion worth of resources. You are finance minister. I mean, you were finance minister for 4 years, and you're seeking to become finance minister again. And that financial institution has featured in a number of transactions in which the government is involved. It started featuring even before you became finance minister, granted, under most governments. And now you are finance minister, and that financial institution continues to feature in major financial transactions, especially now that we are borrowing a lot. We are borrowing a lot from the international financial market, and that institution, data bank, is involved enormously in the process. People have raised questions about conflict of interest. Constitution frowns on conflict of interest, and we public officers position ourselves in such a way that our personal interests conflict with our public responsibilities. Can you brief us on how you are managing your relationship with the financial institution in such a way that the perception of a likelihood of conflict of interest is demystified and addressed in people's minds?
Yeah. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I think it's, it's a problem that, of course, may be taken advantage of, or you may look at the minister and know that such is not the way in which he operates. But I think in the end, Honorable Chair, I think it's up to Parliament to get our Public Services Act or something passed so that there's clarity on that. U.S. investment bankers are usually chosen as Treasury secretaries, etc. So the problem will continue in which expertise outside of the political cycle may be invited to the finance ministry, and we need to protect and encourage such international expertise. I suspect if we look at what the ministry has done with regards to enhancing our ratings, reducing the interest rates when we go to the Eurobond market, that's just phenomenal savings that are relevant. So I think it's a responsibility of the House to really protect that ministry and encourage experts to participate. But the issue that you have raised, for example, if Parliament was telling the world that, look, these guys have been doing this since 2007, first to do it, they've done it with every government, then it's a non-issue. Now, if somebody wants to politicize it, of course it's an issue, but I think that the truth of the matter and the idea of supporting the indigenous Ghanaian firms, the idea of encouraging people with expertise to come in government should be front and center as we look at this, or as we may be denying the nation some expertise that may be relevant to the future. But yes, in my situation, I truly do not engage in these sort of procurement transactions as we think, broadly on the economic freedom, the space for people, our international relationship to make sure that we get the best deal. So I can give you my commitment as to what we do. I certainly have not been on the boards of data banks since maybe 2014 or 2012, retired from that. But, I think we built two great companies and would encourage people to do that.
Very well. We've done 2 hours now. We'll bring proceedings, we'll suspend proceedings. We'll resume in 2 hours. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair.
covers an area of 5,193 square kilometers and shares borders with the north and south by the Bono region, the east by Ashanti region, and the south by the Western North region. The region, created on the 13th February 2019, was carved out of the southeastern part of the then Bunahafo region and was among the newly created regions of Ghana by the Constitutional Instrument 114 under the presidency of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo.
Goso has also been chosen as the capital of the Ahafo region.
Goso, the regional capital, is derived from the river Go, which translates as on top of Go, and is positioned within three major towns, Mem, Kukum, and Shidim.
The journey wasn't smooth sailing. It was a bit tortuous. It wasn't a smooth thing. But the dream and the focus of all the people in Ahafo was that at least the time has come for us to carve our own identity out of the existing Bono Ahafo region. So far, I'll say so good.
It's Nafo South, it's Nafo North, it's Sutifi North, it's Sutifi South, as well as Tano North and Tano South makes up the Ahafo region. The region has 589 communities. Isnafo North has 187. Isnafo South has 110. Esutifi North 68. Esutifi South 24. Tano North has 87 communities, and Tano South also has 113 communities. Goso and Bechem municipalities are the urbanized districts of the region. The region lies in the forest zone and is a major cocoa and timber producing area. The Bia and Pano rivers are the main drainage system of the region and serve as a source of water supply to the region and the Bono region. The Tano River runs through all the 6 districts in the region. The 2010 Population and Housing Census projects the estimated population of the region at 2,310,983, with majority located in its rural areas. Ahafo's rich climate and weather condition dictated its selection for the launch of the Akufo-Addo government's flagship program, Planting for Food and Jobs, in 2017.
A region where all the ecological zones of our country can be found, for the unveiling of this excellent initiative.
Economically, agriculture and agribusiness related work is the mainstay of the people in Afo. Farming is the main occupation for about 2/3 of the economically active group in most districts. Traditional authorities have released hundreds of arable tracts of land for the purpose.
When it comes to Ahafo in general, we are noted for our agriculture activities. In terms of agriculture, and they were selecting some districts for AMSEC, we also considered Esutifi South. And as we are talking now, Esutifi South is one of the districts which is doing well in agriculture. We are producing more rice, our cocoa, farming is also going on. The people have also taken up livestock. It is going on everywhere. So the Assembly has taken steps to improve agriculture by supporting our farmers, giving them irrigation. The government has also supplied us with tractors and other equipment.
Already, Some are seriously and busily engaged in farming on a large scale as the new order.
So in this matter, I encourage him to stay. So I started with the owners, the Agogowa, the Nigerian big ones. So about 5 acres. So I started, and it was okay. So in fact, the encouragement came. I said, no, we'll stop because time to time, the onions has got a time, the cabbages, and then the green pepper. But for the cabbage, it's any time. With the green pepper, right now, the cabbage is almost organized 3 million here. So the green pepper 5 million.
Ahafu also boasts of the Gosu Cocoa Station, one of the 16 cocoa stations dotted across the country. Substantial proportions of the economically active persons are also engaged in production. Gosu, the regional capital, has the largest market center in the region. Ahafu is also rich in gold deposits. This is confirmed by gold mining activities in 3 districts, namely Esutifi North, Esutifi South, and Dano North districts.
The mining is just run. Most of the problems associated with mining are also here. For the past 10 years, the people have tasted, resources from the mining, and they are following it. So when it comes to feeding here, you tell the boys to even embark on agriculture, they don't want to go.
Educationally, Ahafu has 451 kindergartens, 478 primary schools, 366 junior high schools, with 17 senior high schools.
Having gotten the region, the school has changed a lot. I've had a new girls' dormitory that has been built and commissioned for use. Students are now in there. If you look behind here, we have a 12-unit classroom block being constructed by Get Fund. It's part of the government initiative to curb dog track in our secondary schools. Then the other ongoing project here is also a 12-unit classroom block being built by the Municipal Assembly for the students. Apart from that, the other minor projects going around in the school that shows that at least if they come with the region, Minchin High School has benefited a lot from this region.
Bechem Internal South is home to the only school for persons with special needs in the region.
Bechem School for the Deaf was established in 1969. It was established to help students who are deaf in the middle of Ghana, to also allow them to get access to education. Now, in 1987, we added a vocational and technical education also to the school, because we realized that we have only one senior high school for the deaf in Ghana. So all the deaf students from WA to Campus, all of them, they all head towards that one senior high school. So we thought that we can also design some kind of training to help some of the students who may not get access to the SHS. That is why we have the technical and the vocational school also here. Students use this school as their home, especially the schools for the deaf. When they come and enter here, let's say at KG, they will continue education to primary, to JHS, and if they finish and they want to continue to technical, they are also here. So KG 2 years, primary 6 years, JHS is 4 years instead of the 3 for the regular people. We use 4 years with JHS. So some students stay here for 15 years. This is their home. Now, some of our students who completed the technical department, we help them to write the NAPTEX examination, and they have been admitted at past UEW Kumasi campus, and we've sent them there. Once they pass, we have interpreters there, and they are all special educators, so we know them, we coordinate, we communicate with them, and they help out. So once they pass, it is not that difficult. The problem is with the SHS, because the other SHS will not admit them. So we have to go to Mampong, which is one and is full. Now, we see that students are having education for free. But when we come here, because our technical department is not registered under the TVET program, students will have to pay for their uniform, they pay for their training materials and other things. Meanwhile, they are there, they are disabled. And in the past, disabled persons were going to school for free, and the regular people were rather paying. Now, the regular people are going to school for free, and the disabled are paying, and I don't think it's good.
There are 8 health training institutions in the region, churning out professionals for the country's health sector.
We don't have enough hostels here. Our principal has taken houses. He rented people's houses for hostels. So we are pleading that the government will help us to build more infrastructures as hostels to contain all the students on campus. And also we are pleading to get one school bus, because those staying outside campus, we have only one bus who convey them. And always that one bus is giving us a problem. So we are pleading with the government to give us an additional bus which will help to convey the students as well. And we also need ICT functional laboratory which contains all computers, enough computers, since our exams, licensing exams is online. So we need more hands in our computers to help us enlighten us in our studies.
Our road system, if we talk of the buildings, we need enough space to accommodate these students. Even worse of all, when we are distributing the teachers, we're not able to get our share as required. They even don't come when we send the teachers here. And national accreditation is also on our necks to get teachers with second degree, etc., to approve our programs. We don't have any hospitals in this very town. We have to move to places like Kukum, Goso, and BME, and they all take away huge sum of money from us because of fuel that we have to provide for the vehicles.
The pickup that we have for the school is only one, which is used for mostly all transport activities. So it's a big challenge to us. Most of the tutors live outside the compound, which makes checking for discipline very challenging.
Even though this is a center at the hospital here, we have a well-equipped trauma and orthopedic department and then physio department. It is not every time that you can bring students in to learn, so we need to set up skills labs in the school. We are patching in some of the conference halls of the hospital, even though academic work is supposed to be at our main campus. So that is one serious challenge. The college has 68 acres of land. So far we have developed less than a quarter of the land, so we have vast land for future development.
The region also has 96 health facilities comprising 10 hospitals made up of 3 government-owned, 1 Islamic and 4 privately owned. It also has 22 health centers, 18 clinics, 7 private maternity homes, 160 demarcated chip zones, 143 functional chip zones, and 45 chip compounds. A Sutifit North district out of the 6 districts in the region has no district hospital. The oldest health facility in the region is the Gosu Municipal Hospital. It began as a wound dressing center.
This used to be a wound dressing unit, and then they upgraded it to a health center, and then later, somewhere middle of 80s, it became a district hospital. So looking at our capacity, we see around 250 patients a day, and so we need quite more doctors in addition to our staff strength here. Where our major problem is are the other paramedics. If you come to X-ray, now the X-ray technician who was here has left for school, so we need X-ray technician. Apart from that one, if you go to ultrasound, we have one sonographer. We also need a standby because the one is only one. If he goes on leave, in fact, he can't even go on leave, just short, and there are certain cases said that any time receiving on 2 or 3 days off, we have to be called. If you talk to our mortuary staff, we have 2 permanent, and we need more.
The St. John of God Hospital at Nkwanta and the St. Elizabeth Hospital at Hwidiem falls under the Christian Health Association of Ghana CHAG facilities.
It actually started as a maternity home in 1953. It was an initiative of the then government of establishing maternity homes and then dressing centers in rural areas in Ghana. In 1955, the maternity home was upgraded into the status of a hospital, going up to what we have now as a major center for orthopedics, if I can say, in the country. Initially, before Wenchi Methodist came in, we were the only facility providing orthopedics in this area, the northern, central, and western as well, and including our neighboring countries like Burkina, Cote d'Ivoire, and then Togo. Sometimes even we receive cases from Guinea and other countries as well. The challenge is with infrastructure. For instance, we have trained 2 gynecologists and now we're receiving a lot of referral cases from outside our district as well. But when they come, the facility is also not able to take them because most of the time, the best number, the capacity that the bed can take, we realize that we can, it's full. And sometimes I have to have patients maybe not having bed. And sometimes we are just referring cases. You just immediately have to do something for the patient. But we don't have the infrastructure, we don't have the equipment.
Established in the year 1955, we've been operation up to date. It started as a camp for lepers. And then later on, the people realized that when their people are sick, they have to be sent to Kumasi. And it was too much, the roads were terrible state. So they pleaded to the Catholic Church and they could take up the place. And so the Catholic Church also took up the place, developed it into a hospital. It has been operation up to date. The space we have has become small in the stage that the OPD we have operating before is still the same. For the child health, we have it in different sessions. We have the children and have the neonates. We didn't even have a place for the neonates. We only improvised. And we are trying to solicit for help for neonatal intensive care units. And that is the one under construction. At the moment, you cannot even complete it because we don't have the funds to complete it. And that place is also very dear to us because it's a place for the neonates who later become our future leaders. So it's very important that we are able to complete it, to be able to admit our neonates, and then when they get cured, tomorrow they take care of you and me.
Spreading development evenly across the country, especially in the new regions for accelerated development, is one of the reasons for creating AHAFO. Against this background, today, the regional offices of highways will be situated at Tano North, Education Office at Bechem in Tano South.
Anybody transacting education business in AHAFO doesn't go to Goso, but they come to Tano South, Bechem. Bechem is chosen because traditionally Bechem is noted for its education. Because in the early 90s, around 1980s, Bechem had many educational institutions, including St. Joseph College of Education. We also had a training college. We also have one of the oldest private secondary schools, or business colleges, Bechem Business College, and now Bechem Polytechnic. And PRESEC is also here. I'm told Professor Buzia started his education here, and President Ofori also had his education here. Incidentally, they all attended the same school, the Bechem Presby School. All of them are in this town.
Hwidiem in Esutifi South will house the Regional Health Directorate. Prison Services comes to Esutifi North, whilst Esunafo North takes the Regional Agriculture Office. Kukwom in Esunafo South hosts feeder roads, and the Regional Health Insurance Office goes to MIM in Esunafo North. Ahafo prides itself with one of the best orthopedic and physiotherapy hospitals in the country. It receives clients from across the country and beyond.
For the past 5 years, now we have seen that the motorbike accident has increased so much. I mean, for some time now, I don't, if I say the last time we saw victim from car accident is probably a month ago. And once in a while it comes in. But on a daily basis, we, as we talk now, all the patients here, most of them are from motorbike accidents. Either they arrive themselves or their pedestrians also hit by motorbikes. If you were here 3 weeks ago, my children's department was full. A lot of fractures, all hit by motorbikes. But the motorbike is really is worrying. It's worrying because they're all young people. There are some of them who come, unfortunately, they die if you are an emergency. They crash, they have head injuries, and some of them they break their legs, their arms. Some get spinal injuries. They are referred to neurosurgeons, and sometimes most of the time they end up in the wheelchair. And when they're here with open injuries, you cannot send them home. They are here, they take the bed, and so until they are okay, you cannot send them away. So the beds are occupied just as long as they're not well, you cannot send them home. And to keep that burden on us, we have a lot of patients who need some type of orthopedic surgery, elective ones, who are waiting lists. But because of motorbikes, the beds are all occupied. Clubfoot is a congenital deformity of the foot, and the cause actually is not known. But we can say that about 1 out of 1,000 babies born worldwide have a clubfoot. In Ghana, about 6 out of 1,000 babies